The hospital was always busy, filled with the sounds of footsteps, machines beeping, and the low voices of doctors and nurses moving from one patient to another. In the middle of all this rush worked a young nurse named Maria. She was not from a rich family, and her life was full of challenges. She lived in a very small rented room near the hospital. The rent took away most of her salary, and the rest went to her aging parents back in her village. She often skipped her own needs so that she could send medicine and groceries to them. Even with so many struggles, Maria always carried a warm smile on her face. There was one thing Maria had held onto since her childhood. It was a small doll, old and a little worn out, but very precious to her. She had received it as a gift when she was only 5 years old. Back then, her parents couldn't afford toys, so this doll was her only treasure. She had hugged it through her lonely nights, whispered her secrets to it, and kept it safe like a friend. Now, as a grown woman working long hours in a hospital, she still carried the doll with her, tucked carefully into her bag. It reminded her of simpler times, and it gave her comfort whenever she felt lonely. One cold evening, as Maria entered the children's ward for her shift, she noticed a new patient had been admitted. A small girl, around 7 years old, was lying in one of the beds. She looked pale and weak, her tiny hands clutching the hospital blanket. Her eyes were full of sadness, and there was no toy or comfort item near her. She looked around the ward, watching other children who had their parents beside them, some with colorful balloons or stuffed toys. But she had none of that. She only had silence. Maria's heart softened instantly. She walked toward the girl's bed with her gentle smile. "Hello, sweetheart," Maria said softly, bending down to her. "My name is Maria. I'm your nurse tonight. What's your name?" The girl looked up slowly, her voice faint but clear. "Anna," she whispered. Maria sat on the edge of the bed, brushing the child's hair gently. "That's a beautiful name. How are you feeling, Anna?" Anna shrugged and looked away. Her lips trembled, and Maria noticed her eyes were filled with tears. I miss my mom," the little girl said in a broken voice. Maria froze for a moment. She understood what those words meant. She knew from the file that Anna's mother had passed away some years ago, and Anna was left in the care of her father. The nurse felt a deep ache in her heart. No medicine could fix the pain of missing a mother. "I know," Maria whispered softly, holding the girl's small hand. "It must be very hard. But you are not alone. I will take care of you, and you'll feel better soon." Anna gave a small nod but kept staring at the ceiling. Maria wanted to do more. She wanted to bring even a small smile to this child's face. But how? As the night went on, Maria checked on her other patients but kept glancing at Anna. The little girl lay quietly in her bed, not sleeping, not talking, just holding her blanket tightly. Maria felt helpless. Finally, when she took a short break, she remembered something. Her doll. The one she always carried in her bag. The thought made her hesitate for a moment. That doll was the only thing she truly owned, her most precious memory. She had never given it away, not even to her cousins when she was younger. But then she thought about Anna, lonely, motherless, lying in that hospital bed with no toy to hold. Maria slowly reached into her bag and pulled out the doll. Its dress was faded, and the hair was a little messy, but its button eyes still shone. She held it close for a moment, as if saying goodbye, then carried it back to Anna's bed. Anna looked up when Maria returned. Her eyes widened as she saw the doll in Maria's hands. "This," Maria said gently, "is my special friend. She has been with me since I was a little girl, just like you. She has always made me feel safe. And now, I want you to have her." Anna blinked in surprise. "For me?" she asked in a whisper. Maria nodded, placing the doll in Anna's arms. "Yes, sweetheart. She is yours now. Her name is Rosie." Take good care of her, and she will take care of you. For the first time since she had arrived, Anna smiled. It was a small, shy smile, but it warmed the entire room. She hugged the doll tightly to her chest as if she had just received the greatest gift in the world. "Thank you," Anna whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Maria's heart filled with joy. She had given away her most valuable possession, but the happiness in Anna's face was worth more than anything she had ever owned. What Maria did not know was that someone had been quietly watching from the doorway. A tall man in a dark suit had come to visit his daughter but had stopped when he saw the nurse sitting beside her. His sharp eyes had softened as he watched Maria give away her only doll. This man was Anna's father, a wealthy CEO and a single dad who usually kept his emotions hidden. But tonight, standing unseen at the door, he felt something he had not felt in years: a deep gratitude toward a stranger. Maria, however, did not notice him. She only saw Anna smiling in her bed, holding the doll close as if it were the most precious treasure. That was enough for her. She returned to her rounds, her heart light even though her bag now felt empty. Later that night, when Maria finally left the hospital after her shift, she walked down the dark street alone. The air was cold, and she hugged her thin coat tightly around her. For the first time in many years, her bag no longer carried the doll that had comforted her through so many struggles. But somehow, she did not feel empty. She felt proud. She had given it to someone who needed it even more. And though she did not know it yet, that small act of kindness had started a chain of events that would change her life forever. The next morning, the hospital was busy again. Nurses hurried through the halls, doctors carried files, and patients were being shifted for tests. But in the middle of all this noise, Anna's room felt different. The little girl who had been lying quietly just the night before now sat up in bed with a spark in her eyes. She was hugging the old doll Maria had given her. The way she held it was as if it were a treasure no one could take away. When Maria came in for her shift, she was surprised. She expected Anna to still be sad and quiet, but instead, the child was whispering to the doll, as though it were alive. Her cheeks even had a faint blush of color. Maria smiled warmly. "Good morning, Anna. Did Rosie keep you company last night?" Anna nodded eagerly. "Yes. She stayed with me. I wasn't scared anymore." Maria's eyes softened. "I'm so glad. She's a very good friend, isn't she?" The girl hugged the doll tighter. "She's the best friend I ever had." Hearing those words made Maria's heart swell. She had given away her most precious thing, but seeing Anna happy like this gave her peace. She leaned closer and whispered, "Remember, if you ever feel lonely, just hold her close. She will listen to you." What Maria didn't know was that Anna's father was standing outside the room again. He had come early that morning to see his daughter before leaving for an important meeting. When he looked inside and saw his little girl smiling for the first time in weeks, he felt something deep inside him shift. His daughter had been so quiet ever since her mother passed away, and even though he gave her the best doctors, the best treatment, and the best hospital room, nothing had comforted her. Yet here she was, smiling because of a worn-out doll given by a poor nurse. He stayed silent at the door, listening to their soft voices. The way Maria treated Anna was not like work, not like duty, it was like love. Later in the day, when other nurses came in, some of them noticed Anna's doll. One nurse whispered, "Where did she get that from? It looks old." Another replied, "Maria gave it to her. She said it was her childhood doll." They all looked surprised. They knew Maria didn't have much in life, and to give away something so personal was no small thing. Word spread quietly among the hospital staff. Some admired Maria's kindness, while a few shook their heads, wondering why she would give away her only toy. But Maria didn't pay attention to whispers. She only cared that Anna felt comforted. Throughout the day, Anna became more open. She started talking to Maria about her favorite stories, her favorite colors, and how she wished her mom could still be with her. Maria listened patiently, never rushing, never cutting her off. Sometimes she even made funny faces to make the girl laugh. Every laugh, every smile, felt like a small victory. That evening, as Maria was writing notes in the ward's file, Anna's father finally stepped inside. He was a tall man with sharp features, dressed neatly in an expensive suit. Most people in the hospital lowered their voices when he passed by. There was something about him, an air of authority, of someone used to being obeyed. But when he walked into the room, he was simply a father. "Anna," he said softly. His voice was deep but gentle. The little girl's face lit up. "Daddy." She reached for him, still holding the doll in one hand. He sat by her side, smoothing her hair. "How are you feeling today, my princess?" "Better," she said quickly. "Look, Daddy, Nurse Maria gave me Rosie. She's my new best friend." The man turned his eyes toward Maria. For a second, she felt nervous. Did she do something wrong? Should she have asked permission before giving his daughter the doll? But instead of anger, his eyes held something else: curiosity, and maybe even gratitude. "That was very kind of you," he said slowly. His voice carried weight, as though every word was carefully chosen. Maria smiled politely. "I just wanted her to feel comforted. Children need more than medicine." He studied her for a moment, as though trying to understand what kind of person she was. Most people he met were interested in his wealth, his power, or his connections. But this young nurse seemed different. She had given away something precious, not for gain but out of pure kindness. After a few moments, he nodded. "You're right," he said quietly. "Thank you." Maria didn't know why, but his simple thanks felt heavier than any compliment she had ever received. She gave a small smile and excused herself to continue her duties, leaving father and daughter together. That night, Anna refused to let go of Rosie, even while eating. Other children in the ward noticed, and one asked, "Why is that doll so special?" Anna's answer was simple but powerful. She hugged it tightly and said, "Because someone gave it to me with love." Those words reached Maria, who overheard from a distance. Tears almost filled her eyes, but she wiped them quickly. Nurses were not supposed to cry in front of patients. Later, when Maria sat alone in the staff room, she thought about the man's eyes. They were sharp, like someone who had seen too much of the world. But when he looked at his daughter, they softened. She wondered who he really was, but she never asked. To her, he was just Anna's father. What Maria didn't realize was that the man, whose name was Daniel, was one of the city's most powerful CEOs. He had built his company from the ground up and was known for his strict rules and business mind. People in boardrooms feared him, competitors envied him, and employees respected him. But outside of business, he was a single father trying his best. He had lost his wife years ago, and ever since, his daughter had been his only reason to smile. Daniel had tried to fill the emptiness in his daughter's life with wealth, private schools, luxurious toys, the best medical care, but nothing worked. The one thing Anna needed most was love, the kind that her mother used to give. And now, in the hospital, this young nurse had managed to give his daughter what he could not: warmth, comfort, and genuine kindness. That night, as Daniel drove home, he kept thinking about Maria. Her simple smile, her gentle way of speaking, and the way she didn't treat Anna like just another patient. She treated her like family. He realized that sometimes the richest gifts come from the poorest hands. Meanwhile, Maria walked back to her small rented room. Her bag was lighter without the doll, but her heart was strangely full. She thought of Anna's smile, and it gave her strength. Even though her own life was hard, she felt she had done something meaningful. She lay down on her bed, closed her eyes, and whispered to herself, Rosie has a new home now. Unaware to both Maria and Anna, their lives had already become connected in ways none of them expected. What started with a simple gift was slowly building into something bigger, a story that would change all their futures. The following days passed quickly, and something beautiful started happening in the children's ward. Anna, who once lay in silence, now had light in her eyes. She still looked weak, but her laughter began to echo softly in the room. Other children noticed her change and often came near to talk. But no matter who came, Anna always held Rosie, the doll, tightly in her arms. Maria made sure to check on Anna every few hours. She would bring her water, adjust her blanket, and sometimes sit by her bed just to talk. Their conversations grew longer. Anna would tell her about the dreams she had, the colors she liked, and how she wanted to learn to paint like her mother used to. Maria listened with patience, nodding gently and encouraging her to speak. "You'll be strong soon," Maria told her one day. "Then you can paint as many pictures as you like. Maybe you can even paint Rosie with you." Anna giggled. Rosie wants to be in every picture. The bond between the nurse and the child was becoming stronger every day. But Maria never guessed how much her small act had meant to Anna's father. One evening, when Maria came into the ward, she saw Daniel sitting quietly beside his daughter. He wasn't speaking, but Anna was talking endlessly to him about how Nurse Maria gave her Rosie and how the doll helped her sleep. Daniel listened, his hand on his daughter's head, his eyes moving to Maria for a moment before he looked away again. Later that night, when Maria stepped outside for a short break, Daniel followed her. His footsteps were steady, and his presence carried authority. Maria turned slightly nervous, wondering if she had done something wrong. "You spend a lot of time with my daughter," Daniel said, his tone calm but serious. Maria lowered her head slightly. "She needs someone to listen, sir. Children heal faster when they feel loved." Daniel studied her face carefully. He was used to people speaking to him with fear or with too much respect because of his position. But Maria didn't even know who he really was. She was speaking to him like a father, not like a powerful man. That surprised him. He asked softly, "Do you always carry that doll with you?" Maria hesitated. "Yes, I used to. It was mine since I was a child. It was my only toy. But Anna needed it more than I did. So now, it's hers." For the first time in years, Daniel's stern face softened into something close to a smile. "Most people hold on tightly to their treasures. You gave yours away without expecting anything in return." Maria gave a small shrug. "Sometimes, the smallest things make the biggest difference." Daniel looked at her quietly for a long moment before walking away, leaving Maria wondering what he was really thinking. The next morning, as Maria was preparing medicines, she overheard two senior nurses whispering. They were talking about Anna's father. "Do you know who that man is?" one asked. "Of course," the other replied. "He's Daniel Carter, the CEO of Carter Enterprises. One of the richest men in the city." Maria froze for a second. "CEO?" She quickly turned away, pretending she hadn't heard. She didn't want to think about it. To her, he was just Anna's father. But now she understood why his presence carried such weight and why people lowered their voices when he walked by. She shook her head and focused on her work. It didn't matter if he was a CEO or a farmer. What mattered was Anna's health. Later that day, Anna asked Maria to read her a bedtime story. Maria didn't have any books with her, so she told a story from her childhood instead. She spoke about growing up in a small village, playing under big trees, and dreaming about becoming a nurse one day. Anna listened with wide eyes, holding Rosie close. "Did you always want to be a nurse?" she asked. Maria smiled. "Yes. I wanted to help people. I wanted to make them feel better, even when life is hard." Daniel, who had entered the room quietly, stood by the door again. He listened to Maria's story and watched how his daughter's face glowed with happiness. He realized that Maria wasn't just caring for Anna's body, she was healing her heart. The days turned into a week, and Anna's health improved steadily. The doctors were pleased, but they couldn't explain why her recovery was so fast. They only knew that she was responding well to treatment. What they didn't know was that love and care were the hidden medicines working alongside the pills. One afternoon, when Maria came to check on Anna, the girl whispered, "Do you want to know a secret?" Maria leaned closer, curious. "Of course. I love secrets." Anna giggled. "Rosie told me she likes you. She said you're like her sister." Maria laughed softly, touched by the child's imagination. "Then I promise to always take care of Rosie's sister, to you." At that moment, Daniel entered. He heard their laughter, and something inside him stirred. It had been a long time since his home echoed with such pure happiness. For years, his house had felt like a big empty place filled with silence. But now, his daughter was laughing again, and it was because of this nurse. That night, Daniel sat in his office at home, staring at a file. His desk was covered with papers and contracts, but his mind was not on business. He thought about Maria's worn shoes, her tired eyes, and the way she worked tirelessly without complaint. He had asked around quietly and learned that she often took extra shifts and sent money to her parents in the village. "She gives even when she has nothing," he murmured to himself. It impressed him deeply. In his world, people only gave if they expected something in return. But Maria was different. Back in the hospital, Maria was helping Anna brush her hair. The girl looked at her through the mirror. "Nurse Maria," she asked softly, "why don't you ever get tired?" Maria chuckled. "I do get tired, Anna. But when I see your smile, I forget my tiredness." Anna reached out and touched Maria's hand. "I wish you could stay with me forever." Maria's heart melted at those words. She hugged the little girl gently. "I'll always be near as long as you need me." Daniel, once again watching quietly, felt his chest tighten. His daughter wanted this nurse near her, not because of money, not because of gifts, but because of love. That evening, Maria walked home under the fading streetlights. The roads were quiet, and the cool wind brushed against her face. She thought about Anna's progress, about the way her father looked at her sometimes, and about her own life. She wondered if she could ever escape her endless struggles. But then she remembered Anna's laughter, and it gave her hope. Little did she know, her simple kindness had touched the heart of a man who was used to controlling boardrooms and commanding industries. And soon, the story of a poor nurse and a lonely little girl would take a turn that none of them could have imagined. The hospital was quieter that evening. Most visitors had already gone home, and the children's ward had dim lights glowing softly. Maria walked slowly through the hallway, her shoes making light sounds against the floor. She had just finished checking on her patients when she saw Anna's room door slightly open. Inside, Anna was holding Rosie, whispering something into the doll's ear. When Maria stepped in, Anna looked up and smiled brightly. "Nurse Maria," Anna said, "Rosie told me she likes it here." Maria chuckled, sitting by her bed. "I'm glad she feels at home. And how about you? Are you feeling better?" Anna nodded. "Yes. Daddy said I look stronger. And I told him it's because of Rosie and you." Hearing that made Maria's heart warm. But before she could answer, a deep voice spoke from the corner of the room. "It's true." Maria turned quickly and saw Daniel sitting on the chair near the window. He had been watching silently again. His suit jacket rested on the arm of the chair, and his tie was slightly loose, as though he had rushed from work. His eyes were focused, but softer than before. "You've done more for my daughter in these days than any doctor has managed in months," he said slowly. "She laughs again. She talks again. That is because of you." Maria felt her cheeks heat. She wasn't used to praise, especially not from someone like him. She lowered her head. "I'm only doing my duty, sir. Every child deserves care." Daniel stood up, walked closer, and looked at her carefully. "Most people do their duty for money. You do it with heart. That makes you different." Maria didn't know what to say. She simply gave a small smile and checked Anna's medicine chart, pretending to be busy. The next day, Daniel stayed longer at the hospital. He had cancelled a business meeting, something his employees rarely saw him do. Instead, he spent time with Anna and quietly observed Maria as she worked. He noticed how she never rushed through her rounds. She spoke gently with patients, listened to their worries, and often comforted them beyond what her job required. With Anna, she was especially caring, reading stories, adjusting pillows, even braiding her hair when she asked. Daniel realized he was learning something new. For years, he thought money could solve everything. But here was a nurse, poor in wealth yet rich in kindness, teaching him that love was the most powerful medicine. That evening, as Maria prepared to leave, Daniel approached her near the hospital entrance. "Maria," he began, his tone more personal than usual, "may I walk with you for a moment?" She hesitated, surprised. "Of course, sir." They walked together down the quiet corridor. The hospital lights flickered softly, and their footsteps echoed. "I've been watching you these days," Daniel admitted. "You remind me of someone." "My wife." Maria stopped for a moment, unsure how to respond. Daniel continued, his eyes distant. "She was gentle, like you. She cared for others deeply, even when no one cared for her. After she passed, Anna lost that warmth. I tried everything: expensive toys, the best schools, vacations. Nothing worked. But then, you gave her an old doll, and suddenly, she's alive again." Maria's eyes softened. "I didn't do anything special. I only gave her love. That's what children need the most." Daniel turned to face her fully. His voice lowered. "Do you realize what you gave away? That doll was the only thing you had for yourself, and you didn't hesitate. That is not something I see in this world anymore." Maria shifted uncomfortably. "It was just a doll, sir. But to Anna, it means safety. That's what matters." Daniel gave a small smile, one that seemed rare on his serious face. "You think it was just a doll? To me, it was proof that people like you still exist." They walked in silence for a few steps, the weight of his words hanging in the air. The next morning, when Maria came into Anna's room, she was greeted with excitement. "Nurse Maria!" Anna cried out. "Daddy said we can go to the garden today. Will you come with us?" Maria blinked. "The garden?" "Yes." Anna clapped her hands, Rosie still tucked under her arm. "I want you to come too." Maria looked at Daniel, who stood near the window. He gave a small nod. "She won't go unless you come." Maria agreed, and soon the three of them walked slowly into the hospital's garden. The evening sun painted the sky in soft orange, and the air was fresh with the smell of flowers. Anna walked between them, holding Maria's hand with one side and her father's with the other. She laughed as she showed them her favorite flowers, pretending Rosie could smell them too. Daniel watched, his eyes resting on his daughter's joy, then quietly moving toward Maria. Something inside him felt different, almost peaceful. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about his company, his meetings, or his deadlines. He was simply a father, walking with his daughter and the nurse who had brought light back into their lives. Later that night, after Anna was tucked into bed, Daniel found himself alone with Maria again in the hallway. "I owe you more than words can say," he told her firmly. "You don't owe me anything," Maria replied gently. "Your daughter is the one who gave me something. She reminded me what love feels like." Daniel studied her face, the tired eyes that still carried warmth, the simple smile that had healed his daughter. He thought of the emptiness in his mansion at night, the silence that haunted his halls. And then he thought of how his daughter laughed when Maria was near. "You deserve better than this," he said suddenly. "Working endless shifts, walking home alone, living with so little. You deserve more." Maria looked surprised. "This is my life, sir. It may not be much, but it's honest work. And I'm grateful for it." Daniel shook his head. "No. You've given more than anyone I've known, and it's time someone gave something back to you." Maria didn't know what he meant, but his voice carried weight, and she could sense he was serious. She gave a small nod, unsure of what to say. That night, as Maria walked home under the quiet stars, she thought about everything. She thought about Anna's laughter, about Daniel's words, and about her own life. She wondered if she had really done something so important. To her, it was a simple act of kindness. But to them, it seemed to mean much more. In another part of the city, Daniel sat in his office at home. Papers and contracts were on his desk, but he wasn't reading them. Instead, he sat back in his chair, thinking. He thought about how Maria's kindness had changed his daughter, how her presence had filled the void his wealth never could. For years, he believed power and money were enough. But now, he realized they couldn't buy love, sincerity, or the comfort that a poor nurse had given his daughter. And in that moment, Daniel made a decision. A decision that would not only change Maria's life but also bring his family the warmth they had been missing for so long. The following week was full of small miracles. Anna's health improved more quickly than anyone expected. Her cheeks had a healthy glow, and her smile became brighter each day. The doctors were pleased with her progress, but they didn't realize the real medicine was not only in the pills, it was in the love and comfort she received from Maria. One morning, Maria came into the room and found Anna playing with Rosie on her lap. The little girl was laughing softly as if she were telling the doll a secret. When she saw Maria, her face lit up instantly. "Nurse Maria!" Anna cried, waving. "Rosie said she wants you to sit with us." Maria chuckled and sat down beside her. "Well, I can't say no to Rosie, can I?" Daniel was also there, standing by the window. He had been spending more time at the hospital, cutting back on meetings to be with his daughter. His employees wondered what could be more important than his empire, but Daniel didn't care. For the first time in years, he realized family was greater than any contract or deal. He watched Maria laugh with Anna, their voices filling the room with warmth. Something in his heart shifted again. He had admired Maria's kindness, but now he also respected her strength. Despite her struggles, she carried herself with dignity. She never complained about her long shifts, her tired feet, or her small earnings. She simply gave, and yet her smile never faded. That evening, when Anna had fallen asleep with Rosie in her arms, Daniel asked Maria to step outside the room. They walked into the quiet hospital garden where the night air was cool, and the stars shone faintly above. "I've been meaning to speak to you," Daniel said seriously. Maria looked at him curiously. "Is something wrong?" He shook his head. "No. Quite the opposite. You've done more for my daughter than I can ever repay. I want to do something for you." Maria immediately shook her head. "No, sir. Please don't say that. I don't need anything. Anna's smile is more than enough reward for me." Daniel looked at her with steady eyes. "You may not need anything, but you deserve something. You've given so much while living with so little. Do you think I don't know? I've asked about you. You live in a tiny rented room. You take extra shifts, and you send most of your salary to your parents. And yet, you never complain. Why?" Maria lowered her head. "Because that's life, sir. I do what I can. My parents need me, and my patients need me. That's enough reason to keep going. Her words humbled him. He was a man who commanded millions, who could buy anything he wanted, yet he realized he had never shown the kind of selflessness this woman did every day. He took a deep breath. Maria, I want to offer you a position in my company's medical foundation. It's a program I run for children in need of health care. You would be perfect for it. You'll have better pay, more support, and the chance to help many more children like Anna. Maria's eyes widened. Me? But I'm just a nurse. You're not just a nurse, Daniel said firmly. You are the heart that people like me forget the world needs. With your kindness, you can change lives on a bigger scale. And I want to make sure you never have to struggle again. Maria's throat tightened. No one had ever offered her such an opportunity before. For years, she worked quietly in the background, unnoticed except by her patients. And now, this man, the CEO, the father who had seen her give her only doll to his daughter, was offering her a chance to step into a larger role. Tears welled in her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say yes, Daniel replied softly. The next day, Maria returned to work as usual, though her heart was heavy with thoughts. She wasn't sure if she was ready to leave her hospital ward. But when she saw Anna running toward her, clutching Rosie and laughing, she knew the truth. She had to keep helping children like this. If the foundation meant more children could smile again, then it was worth it. When Anna's treatment finally ended, the hospital staff gathered to wish her well. She hugged Maria tightly, refusing to let go. You'll still see me, right? She asked with worried eyes. Maria knelt down to her level. Of course, sweetheart. I'll always be here when you need me. Daniel stood beside them, watching the bond between his daughter and the nurse who had changed everything. He felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. He realized that money had never been the answer. It was people like Maria who made the real difference. Weeks later, Maria officially joined the foundation. She received her first uniform, along with resources she never had before. Instead of struggling with broken equipment and limited supplies, she now had the tools to reach more children and families. She worked in clinics, schools, and even poor neighborhoods where no one had proper health care. Everywhere she went, she carried the same gentle smile, the same patience, and the same heart. And every time she looked at a child holding a toy for comfort, she remembered Rosie and the day everything began. Daniel often visited the foundation offices. Though he was still busy with his company, he always made time to see Maria and Anna. He would watch quietly as Maria taught children, encouraged young mothers, and brought hope wherever she went. His respect for her deepened with every passing day. Anna too remained close to Maria. She often spent weekends at the foundation, sitting beside Maria, showing Rosie to other children, and saying proudly, "This is the doll that saved me." One evening, after a long day at the foundation, Daniel invited Maria and Anna to dinner. They sat together, not as CEO and nurse, but as friends who had become like family. Over the meal, Anna laughed and teased Maria about how Rosie now had her own special chair at home. Daniel watched the scene with quiet joy. For years, he had felt an emptiness no wealth could fill. Now, sitting across from Maria and his daughter, he realized that emptiness was slowly fading. After dinner, as Anna played nearby, Daniel turned to Maria. His voice was low, almost emotional. You gave away your only doll without knowing who Anna was. You didn't know she was my daughter. You didn't know I was a CEO. You gave it because you cared. That one act changed everything for us. Maria smiled softly. Sometimes the smallest gifts carry the biggest love. He nodded. And that love saved my daughter. It saved me too. For a moment, silence hung between them. But it wasn't empty, it was filled with unspoken gratitude, trust, and a bond that was growing stronger every day. As time went on, Maria's story spread quietly. People began to talk about the nurse who gave away her only doll, and how that small kindness opened doors to greater change. But Maria never cared for the fame or the praise. To her, it was always about the children, about the smiles she could bring, about the hearts she could heal. And every time she walked into the foundation office, she remembered that night in the hospital when she had reached into her bag, pulled out Rosie, and handed her to a lonely little girl. She hadn't known then that the girl was the daughter of a powerful CEO, or that her life would change forever because of it. She only knew she wanted to give love. The story ended not with wealth or power, but with something far more precious, a bond of kindness that grew into family. The poor nurse, the lonely child, and the busy single father, all of them found something they had lost. Anna found comfort. Daniel found hope. And Maria found her purpose. And in the center of it all was a simple, old doll named Rosie, a reminder that sometimes, the smallest gifts can open the biggest doors.